We have quantitative and qualitative descriptions of solutions and their concentrations. These are a couple of qualitative descriptions. Saturated and unsaturated. The word saturated means full, right? Sometimes around here, when we get rain, they say the ground is saturated. And so then flash flooding is a problem because the ground is full of water and it's not going to soak up any more. So any more rain that comes down is just going to run off. The ground is saturated. A saturated solution contains the maximum amount of solute at a given temperature. So if we look at this graph, solubility again in grams per 100 grams. This is for sodium acetate. So at 25 degrees, looks like about, what is that, 80, maybe about 82. 82 grams of sodium acetate will dissolve. Right here on the line, the solution is saturated. If we add more, it's not going to dissolve. No matter how much you stir it or grind it, it's not going to dissolve. You can stir and stir and stir, and then it'll just fall to the bottom. So that's a saturated solution right along this line. An unsaturated solution has less than that. So here's the, if at 25 degrees we have 50 grams, we would say that's an unsaturated solution because we could put more in. We could add more, and it would dissolve. So saturated and unsaturated. Then up here we have supersaturated. A supersaturated solution contains more solute than will normally dissolve at that temperature. Does that sound a little bit impossible? It's got more than will dissolve. How does that happen? This happens by creating a solution at an elevated temperature. If you heat the solution, you raise the solubility. So if you make a saturated solution at an elevated temperature and then you let it cool down, some solutes will form a supersaturated solution. As the temperature comes down, the solubility decreases. But it's like Bugs Bunny running off a cliff. He doesn't fall until he notices that he's in midair, right? How do those cartoon characters do that? Well, they're not real, right? Anybody ever tried that? It doesn't work. So the supersaturated solution, as it cools down, the solubility goes down, and it's like the solute is just kind of clueless about what's going on, and it stays in solution even though it shouldn't. This is not a stable situation. Here are some pictures. So here we made this, this is most likely, sodium acetate. We made a saturated solution at an elevated temperature and let it cool down. And it doesn't realize that it shouldn't all be dissolved, but it's unstable. And so here, someone with forceps is putting a little tiny crystal in here. And they put that crystal in there, and that's like Bugs Bunny, oh no, I ran off the cliff. Kind of wakes it up, and then massive crystallization occurs. It's very cool. You can watch the crystals form, and it will actually almost completely solidify because there's so much dissolved in there. So it's very unstable. One tiny crystal can set it off, or bumping it, or touching it with your finger, or looking at it strongly sometimes will set it off. So here's an example. A sodium acetate solution contains 80 grams of sodium acetate per 100 grams of water. So let's find that on this graph. And 80 would be right here. 80 grams. I'm going to draw a line all the way across here. Determine whether this solution is unsaturated, saturated, or supersaturated at each of these temperatures. So at 0 degrees Celsius, the actual solubility of sodium acetate at that temperature is less than 80. This has more dissolved than should be. So what is it? It's supersaturated. Super. How about 15 degrees Celsius? Where's that? 2015, right here. That looks like it's right on the line. So what's that? That's saturated. How about at 45? 45 is over here. It's unsaturated. Okay, so that's how you need to know how to look at that, a graph like that. Any questions? If the temperature is 45 degrees and we have 80 grams of sodium acetate, we could add some more and it would dissolve. If it's at 15 degrees Celsius, right there, if we add more, it will not dissolve. Here, if we add more, adding a crystal or disturbing that supersaturated solution in any way is going to wake it up, and it's just going to crystallize out.